I've just never look back. I'm like, I'm not going back ever. Some people are noticing after 2 years. I'm just going to keep doing it and then shine my light. And if they want to know, I can tell them, and they see what I'm eating. I mean, they know what I'm doing. Now I'm to a point where I'm carnivore. I don't eat that. So it's kind of become my identity, and I can be around. I mean, all my family and friends, most of them eat garbage, to be honest. I don't even see it as food. It's just like, I want to shake them and just like, ah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Good to see everybody here. So we have a guest today. We have Alicea. Alicea, good morning. How are you? Can you hear me?
I'm good. Hi.
I'm well. Good to see you. So where are you located?
I'm in Northern California.
Northern California.
Meadow Vista. It's by Auburn.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. Well, thank you for doing this. I understand this is an update for you. Now, I'm not familiar with your original story, so let's just start from scratch. Tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what kind of stuff you had to go through, and how'd you get there, and what's going on these days?
Okay. I am 52. I've been carnivore now for 2 years, and I struggled with eating disorders since I was 15 years old. Never really obese or struggled with a lot of any of those issues, but eating disorders was mainly my deal. So I was keto for 2 to 3 years before, and then I found you guys through keto. And in 2020 is when I tried carnivore, and it's just amazing. I'm just so grateful.
Well, I'm glad you feel good. Let me ask you, just go back. You said 15, you started with eating disorders. I mean, a lot of people think about anorexia, bulimia. What kind of eating disorders were you talking about?
I was never diagnosed with anything, but I had the identity of bulimia. It started at 15, and diet, binging, purging, starving. I got down to 107 pounds. I'm 5'7".
Okay.
So in high school, I got down to 107. And then I would, of course, be so starving that I would binge. And then I just did that forever and ever. And also exercise, bulimia. So I made exercise my job and was teaching up to 39 classes a week at the gym, and then training for marathons and triathlons. But in all of that, my weight never really fluctuated in all that exercise. You know, people would think, well, that I would be really skinny, but I wasn't, because I was eating the wrong foods. I didn't understand. And of course I was binging. And then, so it was just a cycle of searching for why. And I kept thinking, if I could just find what foods to eat, if someone could just tell me, then I could figure this out. But I couldn't figure it out because I was eating the wrong foods.
What were you eating, or what were you eating, and why were you eating those things?
Well, I grew up in the 80s, so I thought fat was bad.
Okay.
So that was the starting of my dilemma. And carbs, I was just eating, a lot of carbs. I was addicted to the chocolate covered nuts, was like my trigger food for sure. And even when I went to keto, I was still binging on the nuts and the stuff, and it was just too much. Yeah, I was eating meat, but even vegetables I would overeat and overeat everything, actually.
What do you think, at 15, and I know we have a lot of young women that for whatever reason, they're very conscious of how they look, how they appear, which, I mean, I think there's some degree of normalcy to that, but at the same time, some people take it to an extreme, and you get these behaviors: anorexic, bulimic, binge eating, exercise, like crazy exercise type stuff. What do you think drove you in that direction? Was it something, just, I don't know what was going on?
I did see that in elementary school, that when I was thin and skinny, and it was important to a girl, myself, to be the most popular and like the prettiest. And so I saw that happening in elementary school. and then the marketing, of course, and all the attention that happens. And then when I hit 14 and hormones and growing up and eating the wrong foods, so I wasn't obese. I actually weighed the same as I do now, but I didn't have any muscle mass. So I was bigger than and then all the attention, right, went off of me. So I saw like, oh, I need to be skinny to get the attention, to be liked. And so that was driving me for sure. And then all my friends, of course, and I was in an all-girl Catholic school in Southern California, and it was all around me. It was just all we talked about. All we did was like not eat or eat an apple or it was just normal conversations in my group of friends. And then losing weight, I always got that attention. So I just fed off of it. And then I'm like, well, if I can get even skinnier, and then feeling that high, now I look back knowing what I know, I probably was producing ketones and feeling really good when I didn't eat. But then when I did eat, I ate all the wrong foods. And so I was really confused. And with the attention of people, the skinnier I got, but then being so hungry. And so I was in that cycle.
Yeah, it's no fun being hungry all the time. Did you ever go down the plant-based route? I mean, a lot of people choose that option because do they think they're going to get thin that way?
Yeah, I did, but not for a long period of time, because I think I gained 5 pounds on it because I didn't know how, it was probably in my 30s. And so I did try it, but because it's for what I did, I was eating obviously all carbs and I gained weight. So I didn't stick with that. No.
Did you, I mean, outside of the disordered, I guess, the disordered eating behavior, did you have any other health issues come up? I mean, because you're exercising so much. So exercise can mitigate a lot of damage. Exercise can be wonderful. But did you have any other things, mental health issues? I don't know, skin, digestive issues, anything else going on?
I had some joint pain and a disc thing from exercising so much, which is basically it triggers me sometimes, but it goes away so much faster now. I would say anxiety and depression for sure. And I've never diagnosed. I was on meds in my 20s. I was on a lot of diet pills also in my 30s. So I think going off those was actually probably stemming from that depression and my body getting off, because I was on phentermine forever and ever and ever. I don't recommend that. I do still have Raynaud's. And so I'm thinking, I hope that it goes away. And it's not like a big deal, but like now it's cold up here. It's like in the 30s in the morning. And if I handle ice, my fingers, they do go numb and cold. So that's still going on. So I know that's in the autoimmune family, but I never really had a lot of, you know what I did? I'm in perimenopause right now. So I did have all those symptoms and they completely 100% went away after a few months of carnivore. Night sweats, hot flashes, gone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me, because a lot of people come to carnivore diets through ketogenic diets. I mean, that's one of the more common routes that people get there, just because they kind of just, they go a certain way. They change their physiology to some degree. They change their kind of primary fuel source, and then they kind of, they think a little differently, and then they're like, well, why not do carnivore? So how did you get into keto? What was the driving force to get you there? I mean, because you were already thin. I mean, you didn't need to lose weight, sounds like. And most people adopt ketogenic diets to lose weight. So what made you decide to do that?
Right. Well, because I had that binging, purging thing going on. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts, trying to figure it out. And I wouldn't say I was thin because I weighed probably about 157, 158, but I was really muscular. But so I just wanted to be smaller. I didn't want that food obsession on my head. So I found it in like 2014, 15, listening to all those podcasts. And I thought mostly, yes, to lose some weight, but mostly to try to get this hunger starvation cycle off my head. So that's where I officially started probably in 2017, but my binging didn't stop.
Did it help a little with hunger? I know when I went on keto, and I think I went on keto probably around 2014, I'm thinking that I noticed a profound change in my hunger. I just said, well, I'm not hungry all the time. And that was, to me, that was revolutionary. It was quite a revelation, I should say. And did you notice any difference? I mean, was it helping to some degree?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did notice that, but I think the underlying thing is that I was using food and sugar in my addictiveness. I was addicted to it. So any emotion that came up, I was still eating it and still drawn to all the things.
So you would fall off basically. I mean, because a lot of people use fake sugars. I mean, they'll use, the erythritol, whatever, make keto bombs and desserts and all that stuff so they can continue to feed that sweet taste sort of deal.
I lived on paleo pudding. With avocado and the nut butters and the stevia and the, that was my go-to fat bomb.
Got it. Okay. And then, so you said 2 years ago, what drove you into the direction of this crazy all meat thing? I mean, it's still kind of crazy, right?
I know, but I love it. I was in the keto space, and in 2020, so this was September 2020. So I was in the Corona thing. The gyms were closed, so I wasn't working out as much. I just felt a little uneasiness with the food again, and just feeling a little puffy, though I was working out at home a lot. So just hearing the podcast being 2020, I figured I would try it. And I actually hid it from my husband for at least a week, because I thought he or anybody, they would think, here she goes on a crazy, she's, her eating disorders are back and this is nuts, because I didn't know anybody in my real life that was doing it. But I tried it, and I kept a lot of things that aren't in my diet now like a little bit of dried fruit, which I know is all sugar. And I still drink coffee, but I kind of started there and then slowly just kind of got rid of stuff. And I noticed the more that I did get rid of the sweet stuff, the better I felt, the easier it was to stick to it. Those urges and thoughts of all the sugar stuff goes away. Go figure, when you don't eat them. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you haven't any familiarity with something, you forget about it, and it's kind of like, don't even think about it anymore. So when you sort of transitioned to a carnivore diet, I guess it's because you've had 35 years plus at this point, because you're 52 now, you've been on carnivore for 2 years, so say you're 50, and 35 years of eating disorder. Was it kind of a gradual thing, or did you notice, was there a revelation, or how did that play out for you?
Yeah, well, in all of that too, I've been in 12-step meetings for food. Alcohol started, but food was my real addiction. So I was in those meetings at the same time. So I think that's for sure linked together with 12 steps, and my higher power is God. So with God's help, and then with the food. But for sure, I did feel like, I know a lot of people say that carnivore zen, and it's undeniable. I mean, even in a week or two, I was like, wow, there's something here. And I've just never looked back. I'm like, I'm not going back ever. And I want to spread the word, but people still think that I am crazy, that I'm nuts. And so some people are noticing after 2 years, for sure. And I mean, they noticed before, but they still think I'm nuts. But I think I'm just going to keep doing it, and then shine my light. And if they want to know, I can tell them, and they see what I'm eating. I mean, they know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the first time I see. I'm looking at you. I mean, you look like you've got a decent amount of muscle on you, particularly for a 52-year-old female. That's not that common to see. Most 52-year-old females don't look that good. I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, they don't have a decent amount of muscle. They're usually very frail or often obese, unfortunately. Have you noticed a change in your strength, your athletic ability, anything since going carnivore? Has that changed at all for you?
At the start, I felt tired, for a few, probably maybe for a month transitioning, probably because I was binging on so much keto foods and I was just cleansing that out. But other than that, it's pretty, because I exercised so much in the past, I didn't really feel, though I do, like when I hurt my back, now it's just recovery is so quick. It's like ridiculous. And I just recently I'm 18% body fat. So I'm going to keep up with that and just kind of every 6 months or so. And I've done my blood work just to kind of watch, and I geek out on all those numbers and stuff, which I love. And I'm practicing with my macros, because at the first year or so, I was like, whatever, just eat all the meat. And then listening to different people, oh, maybe I should do this and do that. So right now I fall at about 70% fat, 30% protein, which is a little bit more fat than I was in the beginning, but I feel awesome. And then I'm going to stay here and then do another fat test and kind of just experiment with that. But yeah, I feel good. I work out with my neighbors and friends here. I have a gym at my house and I do CrossFit once a week. And yeah, I feel really good.
Yeah, good for you. That's great. And as far as, you said you were 157 at your highest, you got down to 107. Are you somewhere in the middle now? Or, do you mind sharing where you're at now?
Yeah, I'm at 145 now.
145 at 5'7", and looks like, decent amount of muscle on you. How much do you eat then? Just what is it, since you're kind of paying attention to this, how much food do you eat as a 145 pound, 52-year-old fit appearing woman?
Today I eat 2 meals a day. I do have coffee in the morning and I put perfect keto protein powder in it, sometimes MCT powder. And I eat anywhere between 12 and 2 when I'm hungry, and depends on how much I exercise in the morning. And I have ground meat. I am about 8 ounces, 6 to 8 ounces, 3 tablespoons of ghee, because I need more fat in there to try to hit that 70%. And I was putting, sometimes I do the pork renko, the pork rinds in there to soak up the fat, and eggs, egg yolks, so usually 2 egg yolks and 1 egg. And yeah, that's my first meal. And then for dinner, it's red meat is my go-to, but I do eat pork. I don't eat chicken. I just don't like it. My husband does, so I still make it for him. But I don't like ribeye. Just don't like it. So I eat a lot of flank, and I add ghee and tri-tip. Those are my 2 favorite. And fish, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more, though I don't like my house to smell like fish. So that's hard. But I had salmon this week. So basically, a lot of red meat, eggs, butter. Those are my go-to.
Yeah.
I don't eat any liver. I kind of like lamb. I just don't buy it. And yeah.
Yeah, lamb is just a little less available in the U.S. and it tends to be higher priced than it would be in, say, like Australia, UK, or other places where lamb is eaten a little more frequently. And I don't eat liver either. It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't do anything for me. I know there's people that want to sell you liver supplements and all this stuff, which I think is unnecessary, but I won't go too much into that. So, as far as, you said why do you think you don't have cravings anymore? I mean, or do you not have, legitimately not have those cravings anymore?
I don't. And I attribute it to, I think, from listening to podcasts and learning, is that my insulin is really low and I don't have the carbs coming in for the cycle and for my hormones to go nutty. And being in 12-step programs and talking my stuff out and not running to food for my emotional release. And I went to a lot of counseling in my past also and working on myself. And yeah, I know and it's like, now I'm to a point where I'm carnivore. I don't eat that. So it's just like, I don't eat that. And so it's kind of become my identity, and I can be around. I mean, all my family and friends, most of them eat garbage, to be honest, and all the tortillas and the bread. And we go out to dinner, and I bring my own food often. And it's just like, I don't even see it as food. So I just don't eat it. And I don't lecture them, though they know what I'm thinking. I'm not eating it. It's not even food.
Yeah,
to me.
it's almost like we have another species of the junkivores, the people who just eat this processed human grade pet food. And it's like, you're just letting, I'm not even that species. It's like a lion sitting next to a zebra and saying, well, I don't really need to eat the grass. You guys can do it, knock yourself out, go ahead. Do you, as far as you mentioned, you're in that perimenopausal time frame, a lot of women are hearing that they must have carbs or their hormones will tank and they'll have all kinds of problems. And, that's particularly problematic, during pregnancy, menstrual cycles, and of course the menopausal time frame. Did you notice any problems with your hormones by going basically effectively zero carb?
Actually, everything went away. I got better. I lost weight, and my hot flashes went away completely, and I'm sleeping through the night. And it's gone. Night sweats completely gone. I did have some come back in, but then listening to podcasts, I think my protein ratio was too high and my fat was too low. So I kind of played with that, and now they're gone. So yeah, I don't believe any of that. I don't. And I know that I work out with some people, and I hear it around because I still sub at town sometimes. And I hear what they say, and I just like I have to eat, or I get shaky, or I have to eat before I work out. And they don't listen. They don't listen to me.
Yeah, so they're having some kind of reactive hypoglycemia or something like that, and so, I mean, this with regard to that, you said you do CrossFit once a week. How are you doing compared to your peers in CrossFit? Are you able to keep up, perform well? I mean, with people your sort of age cohort?
Yeah, the only thing is, because they've been doing it for years and I have not, and I have to be careful with my back. But it's very humbling, I must say, which is good for me. I need to be humbled. But I run with them. I do lighter barbell stuff, but I can totally do it. I go with my neighbor, and she's even older than me. She's a beast, but she's the one of them that has to eat, or she gets shaky and stuff. But yeah, I can keep up. I think because I've always, well, not always, I started exercises in my 30s, but because I exercise so much, I have high endurance, and I can do all the things. And I do the same stuff here at my house. And yeah, my cardio strength is lacking. I get out of breath faster probably than some of them, but I push through it. So I've actually started putting more cardio in my own workouts just to kind of work on that one. But lifting, I could do all day long.
Yeah. Okay. And then as far as you'd mentioned you were going too high protein before and noticed a sort of recurrence of some of the perimenopausal hot flashes and whatnot. How high a protein were you at that time?
I didn't measure, but I'm guessing was probably 45 to 50, 50, maybe. It was just a lot of flank, like 2+ pounds and I was OMAD. I started OMAD for like 8 months, and then I went to 2 meals. So I was partly because I was used to eating a lot. So I would save the meal to the end. And so I would eat flank or tri-tip, like a mound of it, but with no ghee, no, there's no fat on that meat, really. So I think that once I figured that out, I feel better.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of ghee. I wish I liked ribeye, because I know it's fattier, but I'll eat some of it sometimes, but I don't love it.
Well, I mean, there's always somebody that's got to be like that. I'm just kidding. I know there's
can eat it.
There's other people, and I know there's a number of women that don't find ribeye appealing for whatever reason. Maybe it's the fat pockets of fat rather than the sort of better distribution. And so maybe a prime grade filet or something like that, or New York might be more your speed or something like that. So what do you, as someone who exercises a lot, do you find you have trouble with hydration? Do you take electrolytes or anything like that?
Didn't really feel it, but again, listening to podcasts and Rob Wolf and getting the elements. So I was doing that for, I just stopped it about a month ago, just for an experiment. But so I was doing element for about a year, which I loved. And I did my blood work on it because I hear about stevia could affect your insulin. And I was wondering, but I wasn't sure. And there's stevia in my protein powder, but I feel great. I'm still getting results. Do I care? That stuff going on. So I did my blood work and my insulin was 1.8. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. But then just noticing, and I'm not really big on testing glucose and ketones, but every once in a while, I want to just see where I am. And I noticed that I hardly ever register ketones, like 0.1 to 0.3. And then I'm thinking, listening to podcasts and researching it, that people that work out a lot, that are really muscular and low body fat, they're using their ketones. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, maybe that's it. But I didn't want to say that was it if I wasn't sure. So I gave up elements because I heard some people that that's going to take you out of ketosis. And so I went off of it. And I don't know if this is coincidence or not, but then my ketones just skyrocketed to 1 to 1.7 at certain times of the day. So I'm still trying to figure that out because I really like elements. And I don't feel the difference of when my body or mind when my ketones were 0.5 or 1.7. So I'm still really new in that phase right now of figuring out, well, do I drink them? Do I not? Do I feel a difference without them? Not really, because I still drink a lot of water and sparkly water. And so that's a long answer to say, I don't know.
Well, and it could be.
I don't know.
It could be. I mean, just for reference, I rarely register high ketones either, and I'm somebody who's relatively lean and works out a lot, and so there may be something to that. But I also do sometimes consume the element, particularly if I'm working out a lot. So maybe so. Interesting to see.
Right.
And again, I don't know that having high ketones is any better than not having high ketones. For depending on what your goals are and what you're doing. I mean, like I said, I'd rather just feel good and be reasonably fit, and that would be what my metrics are. But anyway,
don't you wonder though of because you eat zero? I'm assuming you eat zero carb,
right?
And you don't have high ketones. How can that be?
Well, I think you touched on the utilization. I mean, the net amount in your blood or wherever you measure, typically blood, it's going to be dependent upon the production, utilization, and anything that's left is wasted. And so, if you're efficient in making it, but you're also efficient in utilizing it, you're not going to have much hanging out in the blood. If you're inefficient at utilizing it, it may hang out in your blood at higher levels. And the advantage of that is you may just urinate them out. So that's energy you're just peeing away, kind of like some of these drugs that, kind of analogous to something called an SGLT2 inhibitor, which is a sodium glucose cotransporter where you just pee out all the glucose you're making. So you lose weight because you're just peeing off the calories and energy. So, I mean, but if you're already lean, you don't need to do that. It's like, why do I need to waste energy? I need the energy to run my system. And so I think that's what's going on there. Do you find that California in general tends to be a little bit more, I guess, quote unquote, progressive, or however you want to call it? Even with diet, there's a lot of plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, granola, fruits, land of the fruits and nuts. You've always heard that sort of thing. I lived in California for quite a while, so I've experienced some of that. But do you see that going? Is that going around where you are in Northern California? And do you have anybody that's critical of what you're doing? Like, oh my God, you're killing cows. How dare you? That type of stuff.
I don't, thank goodness. And we just moved up here a year ago, so I'm pretty new to this area. Before that, I was living in Henderson by Las Vegas in Southern California. We were living in both a month in each. I didn't see it there either, but I do get questions of when I tell them what I'm doing, they think, oh, I'm carnivore. They'll say, oh, I'm carnivore too. I eat meat and veggies. And I'm like, oh, no. You don't get it. I don't eat any plants. Or they'll say, what about your cholesterol? Or where's your fiber? The normal questions. And depending on who it is, I'll answer them, or I'll just like roll my eyes and like, whatever.
Yes. So let's touch on a couple there. So you don't eat fiber, or effectively none, and I don't either. And I'm fine with that. But some people would say, well, if you don't eat fiber, your digestion is going to be all problematic. You're not going to have a bowel movement. You're going to be constipated all the time. Is that something you're experiencing, or no?
No. I would say though that I go to the bathroom a lot less than I did in the past.
Yeah.
But I do, and I don't have stomach issues, and I have a flat tummy, and I'm completely fine.
Yeah, as far as you mentioned flat tummy, because I see a lot of women, even thin women, normalizing massive bloating after a meal, and they'll say, well, it's this normal type of thing. And I would, and I'm not a woman, so sometimes people say, well, shut up because you're not a woman. But I say that's not normal. It's not normal to be massively bloated after a meal. Did you notice a difference in any of that with bloating or just digestive discomfort?
When I went carnivore, I noticed that bloating went away and my stomach got even flatter. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty common experience. And so cholesterol, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, you mentioned some of your labs. Are you tracking blood lipids and cholesterol, and what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I just got them a couple months ago, and my total cholesterol is 300. So whenever I say that to people outside, they're like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But my trigs were low. My HDL was really high. All my ratios were good. My insulin was 1.8. So I'm not worried about it.
How's your glycemic control? Is that good too? Do you know?
My glucose, it usually runs in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so certainly not high. And then what about blood? How about blood pressure? Good blood pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have metabolic syndrome, you don't have diabetes, you're not obese, these, your triglycerides. So you've got a whole host of cardiovascular risk factors, which are non-existent basically. And you've got one elevated total cholesterol and presumably LDL cholesterol and presumably ApoB. And so some people would say, well, you're at higher risk. And then the question becomes, what about lowering all these other risk factors? Does that cancel that out? And I think the answer is, we don't know yet. We don't know for sure. The way to assess it, in my view, is imaging often can be a good proxy measure to say, well, it's not a proxy, it's a direct measurement of what's going on and that type of stuff. I don't know. Have you had any thought about getting a CAC score or any kind of imaging on your vessels or heart, anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
Should I?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, that's just, if you wanted more information, like if you're not worried about it and you made that decision, because some people would say that even if my risk for heart disease is truly increased by 10%, 20%, even 50%, I don't really care because my quality of life is so much better. I'm no longer whatever the disease issue is. And so they're like, that's the decision I make. And so I just tell people, whatever you're comfortable with, make sure you have enough information to make the right decision, and then, go with that. And then it's no one's job to convince you or try to dissuade you or persuade you one way or the other. They can provide you information and then you make that decision, and hopefully it's an educated decision. I mean, I will say, and I can only speak for myself, if my cholesterol were high, knowing everything else I know about myself, zero coronary artery calcium scan, low insulin, low inflammation, low normal blood pressure, all the, low triglycerides, all that stuff, I'm fine with that personally. But I've had some imaging, and I'm, and I know what my cardiovascular system is capable of. I don't think it's compromised in any way. I'll continue to assess it over the years. I'll probably repeat imaging in, I don't know, the year or two probably. So I try to get it, every once in a while. But anyway, it's an interesting time because we're still in this part where a lot of us think that the research, the data is changing. We're seeing lots of studies coming out that are calling into question this lipid heart hypothesis, with, a lot of people calling into question that. A lot of studies, giving us a reason to call that out. And yet there's people that are, lower cholesterol at all costs, no matter what, even if you're depressed, even if you have whatever, all kinds of other issues, and it doesn't seem to matter. But As far, you mentioned transitioning issues. Have you had any real negative issues associated with change to a carnivore diet? Now, has anything negative happened to you that you can think of?
None.
Yeah.
No.
I try to ask that question, just to be fair, and most people say,
Right.
none,
No.
or maybe mild stuff.
I felt a little tired in my workouts in the beginning, but I think I was just clearing out the carbs and the stuff. My bowel movements were a little loose in the beginning. I was trying to figure out my world, but it didn't bother me. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I'm thinking about my mom right now. She's 80 and she's seeing, me doing this. So she lives in Las Vegas and she tried eating meat for a couple days and then she just gives up because she sees one little thing and, I feel constipated. I can't do it. And then she drops it off. And I think people just don't give themselves a long enough period to figure it out. And if it's something, then pivot a little bit and figure something out, not just like dump it out and think it's not working after 3 days or a week. That's just my.
You mentioned earlier your husband and, saying you kind of kept it from him for the first week because, I think it's the crazy thing. So now you're 2 years into it. What is it? Does he have any thoughts about it? Has he tried it? Is he eating more meat now? What's going on with him?
He is. Yeah, he can definitely see a difference in my mood. And I'm not crazy about around the food and the stuff. And he would slowly, now he just gave up vegetables a couple weeks ago. He still eats a little bit of fruit. He drinks beer and wine. I mean, so he's not in ketosis. He's not. But he does see, like when we don't go out, we'll go out to dinner, maybe actually breakfast once a week. And that's it because I don't want to go out when I can make my own food. And it's really expensive when you just eat meat. And I don't want to eat the seed oils and stuff. But when we do go, almost every single time he'll get a stomach ache or be in the bathroom. And so he was just putting all that together and watching me be completely fine because I'm not eating that stuff. And it took months. And then he's finally like, okay, get rid of this and get rid of that. And so, yeah, he's like, bring on the meat. But he doesn't have he's worried now because he didn't have any weight to lose. He's muscular. I'm 52. He's 58. So he feels like he's going to lose weight on it because he's not eating the carbs and the stuff. So that's his only worry, but he feels strong. He doesn't have any stomach issues. And like I said, he still eats some fruit. And if we go out, he'll probably have a tortilla here and there. But yeah, I was amazed. I'm so glad. And he had high cholesterol like a year and a half ago, and his doctor wanted to put him on statin and stuff. And I'm like, hell no. So we didn't do that. And so I'm watching his blood too.
Yeah, interesting. Well, and it's usually not that hard to convince a man to eat more meat. I mean, it's, most of us are like, yeah, that's
yes.
Great. Let me ask you just, how does it, coming from 3+ decades, 35 years of an eating disorder, and obviously that weighs on you probably, and always constantly obsessing about food and that type of stuff. How does it feel, today? Is there some freedom associated with that now, or how do you feel compared to then?
I feel, like the obsession and compulsion is completely gone. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm actually in awe. It's like a miracle. And I also attribute that to the 12 steps and God. And I did work the stuff and I was in counseling, but the carnivore thing was just the nail on the coffin. It just really lifted all those urges and sugar cravings and thoughts and the fact that it's healthy and I'm stronger and it's good for me. It only fuels the fire more. And it's just a hard line because I want to tell everybody and they won't listen. And then I get judgmental. And then I'm trying to find my space in that right now, actually. at this period of time.
So,
Because I see it all over my family, my friends. It's just like, I want to shake them and just like, ah.
yeah, it's tough when you're out, like I go to the grocery store and I'll see somebody who's clearly suffering from poor health. I mean, they're obese or there's something's going on. You look at it and you look at their grocery cart and you're like, if you just take this out and put that in there, you would do better.
I don't even like to go to the grocery store because it just, I have to like walk around like this and not look at anybody's food.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, thankfully we're in a place where let's bring this up because I was going to say, thankfully we're in a place where we have freedom of choice when we do what we want to do, and that's our life and it's our concern. But there is a continued sort of push to get us all to stop eating meat or cut back on meat or whatever, twice a week eat Beyond Burgers or something. I mean, if let's say that became not voluntary, but somehow mandatory or effectively mandatory due to pricing or other sort of regulations that were put in place. What would that do to your health and life and quality of life?
That's a scary thought. And I try to push it out of my mind and think people like you and doctors and all these people will not let that happen. But then I think, well, what if it does happen? And yeah, I kind of swirl in that thought sometimes and tell my husband, and I go to Costco and I stock up, and he has a shop with another fridge and I stock up there. But I think, how much can I really stock if this stuff happens? And if I have to eat carbs, it's really scary for me to even think, because I feel like I know that my sugar cravings will come up. I'm going to gain weight. It's going to drive me nuts. I'm not going to feel healthy. And just swirl back into I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, I can imagine, like I said, and some people hearing that say, well, my God, this person's crazy. They're worried they would have to eat carbs would be awful. But for some people, it's really an issue. And the other thing is, can you imagine if you're like, I'm not eating this way because I chose to. I'm eating this way because I was forced to do so. And you're going to be resentful, and it's going to really eat into your mental health. You think about it, you're like, I don't want to eat this garbage that you're forcing me to eat. And I can see a lot of people being unhappy with that. So, I do think, and I try to get this out there, that it is a incredibly important topic that we should all be concerned about. And it's not just me. One person's not going to make a difference, but millions of us can make a difference. And so we all need to continue to fight for food sovereignty, food freedom, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. And, we got to push back from these people that are, in bad faith trying to undermine, agriculture, in my view. To supplement it with, this highly refined, cheap human pet food is all I want to have to say with that stuff. Do you, let's see, so you're eating a lot of ghee, you're adding a lot of fat. Do you have any problems with that? Some people, when they eat a lot of fat, they get indigestive problems. Did you ever notice that sometimes too much rendered fat causes a problem for you?
Sometimes I do if I eat too much of the ghee at once, but nothing too like it's gonna stop me. And I just kind of adjust and watch it. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is too much, I'm gonna stop eating ghee, because I won't. So yeah, no.
So you mentioned the 12-step program initially for alcohol, addiction. Most of us are familiar with AA and that sort of concept. A lot of people, interestingly, when they go carnivore, will notice that their cravings for things like alcohol or cigarettes, if they're, addicted to cigarettes or various other vices or drugs. I don't know if you ever, I don't know how long you've been alcohol free and if that's made a difference as well with the diet.
I was sober from alcohol 28 years, actually. Okay. So I only drank for 9. My main addiction was food and eating disorders. So basically I started drinking, and the eating disorder started when I was 15. I got sober from alcohol when I was 24, but kept the eating disorders and then add the exercise on top of it for another 25 years. And But definitely I see, and I've heard with podcasts and I see it around me because I volunteer for a company, for a nonprofit called Came to Believe Recovery. And we do retreats around the United States, UK, and Ireland. And I just see so much addiction in the rooms with food, but they're there for alcohol, drugs, and other things. So I make sure with talking about when I'm teaching the steps and I'm speaking in front of them, they know my thing is food. And a lot of them will come up to me in the retreats, which is amazing. So I'm like using that as an avenue. And some of them didn't realize until I said it that they were struggling with food, and they're like obese and they didn't see it. So I think that's my avenue right now, is speaking to those people and letting them know, which is a weird space because they're already dealing with giving up drugs and alcohol. And now I'm throwing this in. But if they could cut their carbs down, it's going to help them so much in all their addiction and their brain and relationships and getting that brain fog out. So that's what my mission is actually right now, is to help people in the addiction space and show them that food or sugar is probably the gateway drug for everybody when we were little. And then we go to alcohol, drugs, porn, or whatever the thing is. It's just a hard space because they're a lot of them do not have a lot of means and money, so they think it's too expensive. So I say, well, ground meat and eggs, and there are ways. And they're dealing with the other addictions too at the same time, and they feel overwhelmed. But I'm trying to show them that it's their life, and it needs to be looked at of what they're eating.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me, because you had mentioned, as part of the binging, purging process, you're using exercise as a form of purging, or almost punitively. I ate that, now I got to go run for 12 hours or something, something like that. How has your relationship with exercise changed now? Because exercise can be such an important, wonderful aspect. Do you feel compelled to exercise to make up for, atone for sins that dietary sins, or how's your relationship with exercise changed?
It changed immensely in 2020 when the gyms closed. And then that's when my work started really with the exercise. And now I love it. I mean, I am one of those that love exercise, thank goodness, because there's so many people around me that hate it. I see that to build muscle, you need to lift heavy things. And I like that. I exercise for the normal person probably a lot. I probably exercise from 8 to 10 hours a week, but I don't work full time. I'm married. I don't have to work. So I have a lot of time. My husband and I get up at 5 a.m. and we read and talk and pray and lift Monday through Friday. So there's an hour every day there. And then I work out with my friends and neighbors on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then I walk also with my husband, and I go to CrossFit once a week. So for a lot of people, they were like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But compared to what I was doing, it's nothing. And it fits in my life. And I love it. And I love the creativity of making these workouts for my neighbors and doing all these HIIT things and strength things and running and doing CrossFit stuff. So it's like a purpose. I'm creating something. We're working out together. They love it. I love it. And so I don't feel like it's an obsession right now. But I mean, maybe if I get hurt or if I find that 10 hours is too much, then I need to be realistic and honest with myself and maybe cut it down and rest when I hurt myself, because I did hurt my back 2 weeks ago in CrossFit. So I had to take some time off. So that's a learning curve for me for sure, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to work out for a couple of days. And then my head starts going nutty. But then I'm like, well, I can go for a walk. And my muscle is not going to disappear in 3 days. I hope not. So I'm still learning, to be honest with you, about all that. And I have
Yes.
to be honest with myself and have integrity. And I do have a sponsor. So I tell her some of my thoughts and she'll check me on certain things. Like if I was exercising 4 hours a day, that's probably not good for me. And I'm not doing that. I'd like to sometimes, but I don't.
Yeah, I just think about the volume that I do these days compared to what I was doing 10, 20 years ago, and it's dramatically less, but honestly, I'm still maintaining and not, it's not been detrimental to me. I mean, and I train every day, or at least every day I can. Sometimes I miss a day due to travel or something like that, but it's pretty infrequent. And yeah, I find a lot of joy, and it's mentally good for me to do that. I think it is for a lot of other people. Do you have any social media stuff that you do? Are you doing any social media type stuff?
I'm on Instagram at Alicea, Alicea.life.coach, and relatively new. And I do Monday challenges on there, like life coachy challenges on Mondays. And then on Saturdays, I do a recap because I do the challenge with them. And then I'll tell them what I've learned from it, like looking at our excuses or giving up one thing from your diet. Or, it's always nutrition or mindset related. So I do that. And it links to Facebook. And Facebook, I think it's just Alicea Martinez. And yeah, other than that, I was a life coach before 2020, and then 2020 happened and I kind of just stopped doing that. So I'm starting to do that now, basically because being carnivore, I'm not going to push carnivore on anybody if they don't want to do it, but just wanting to help people, and my family and friends right around me don't want that help. So I'm like, I want a health coach again for people that want the help and that'll pay me to help them. So I just started doing that. So I have a couple clients, which I love, and I'm not pushing carnivore on them. I'm looking at, lowering their carbs or whatever they need to do. So yeah, that's what I do. Just little life coach videos. And
Yeah, your point about somebody that wants it versus have to, like I can use the sort of the analogy, like when I was an orthopedic surgeon, people came to see me not because they wanted to see me. They had to see me. They broke their bone or their rotator cuff tore or they needed a knee replacement. They didn't want it. They had no desire to go to the doctor's office. And now as I do consultations, everybody that sees me wants to be there. They're like, hey, we sought you out because of what you're promoting. And I've seen other people get good results, and that's what I want for myself. So it becomes very easy. And it's a lot more fun, I got to tell you, because you don't have somebody that's reluctantly, grudgingly, just conceding they have to do this. People that say, "Hey, I want to do this. Tell me more about this." So it does make a difference, and I think more and more people are seeking that out. And you just, again, you can live next to somebody for 20 years, and it ain't until they're ready, or something forces them to be ready. They ain't going to change. I mean, it's like, people ask me, "What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self?" I'd say, I don't think my 18-year-old self would have listened to anything I had to say, quite honestly, because you're just doing what you're doing. And I mean, back in those days, I could eat whatever I wanted and go out and party and, wake up the next day and I'm good to go. But I have, again, hindsight 2020, say, well, maybe I shouldn't have done so many of those things, but that's part of it. But I mean, there's a lot of people, and this is why, like I said, you see such a big push in veganism among young kids, particularly young women, because they're very impressionable and they're easily swayed by these very emotionally driven messages. And it's not till 30s, 40s when you start saying, okay, wait a minute, now my health isn't doing what I'm supposed to do. So I have to change these things. So anyway, I unfortunately have to go. Alicea, it was a very good time talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure it will help inspire others. Good luck in California. Hopefully things continue to, or don't go the way I hope they're not going to go. And we'll keep fighting. We all need to keep fighting though. But you're absolutely right. This is whether we like it or not, we're all in a little bit of a battle for our future, and really it's the future of our kids, because like I said, I'm not going to change what I eat. I mean, I'm unless something dramatically compels me to, like with my own health. But but I mean, they're going after the little kids right now and sort of slowly indoctrinating them into eating the bugs and meat eating is bad and all that stuff. And I think we as parents and grandparents and uncles and uncles and aunts and stuff like that have to do that. So, okay, everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks, Alicea. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Hey, folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. If you guys are enjoying these success stories, well, you can become your own success story. You can do that by heading over to CarnivoreDiet. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial and get started today. We're looking forward to supporting you. Our community is wonderful, and we'd love to see your success.